Hey friends, let's do a little review of last week as we get ready for the week ahead. This is for the week of August 25th to month end, finally through August. So we're going to look at what we're expecting in a number of products for the week, as well as the trade plan for Monday over the next little bit. So with that, let's get into it, shall we? We'll start with looking at the calendar, just to get a sense of what potential catalysts might be out there that we need to pay attention to. Last week, the big catalyst was the Jackson Hole meeting with the Fed. We're going to talk about that as we look at expectations for equities in the coming week. Here's what's on deck this week. So we do have a bit of Fed speak following last week. So you can see there's a Fed speaker on Monday. There's Fed speakers on Tuesday. We do have a 20-year bond, and then we have I'm sorry, that's the wrong week. Let's look at the right week. Let's look at the right week. Yeah, that's much better. Have a number of little minor releases here on Monday. Some also on Tuesday. Treasury auctions. One Fed speaker on Wednesday. So far, no big deal. However, on Thursday, we have GDP, PCE, and some Fed speak. A lot of releases here before the open, so pay attention to those. And then on Friday, we have core PCE. So just a reminder that core PCE is the Fed's favorite inflation gauge. So that's one to definitely pay attention to and be mindful of. On top of that, we have NVDA earnings. So I have here a chart of NVIDIA with an anchored VWAP from each of the last earnings releases. So that release is going to be, I believe, on Wednesday after the close. So we'll be watching that movement. That's likely to impact what happens, especially as we get to the end of the month. And so that's the last bit, is that we're going into the end of the month. There's some kind of month-end games, a desire to try to prop things up, and then we get into September. Okay, so with that, let's take a look at the quick sheet and get a sense for what we're looking at across asset classes. As a reminder, you can download this sheet on this video and use it as a reference. This is one of the first places that I start to get an idea of what products may be of interest, specifically if it's not like the ones I'm looking for intraday, like the ES, NASDAQ, Russell, and crude. Okay, so a couple things to highlight just to start. This being highlighted in bold here represents that these products are all more than 4% above their monthly VWAP. Typically, we find that 4% or greater is hard for those markets to exceed in a monthly basis. That being said, when you get to the end of the month, it matters less. So just know that, yeah, it's been a strong month for the equities. We'll look at that on the charts. Other products that we're paying attention to, we've got gas futures that are balanced. Note that we're about to expire in the September contracts. We'll be looking at the probably the October contract. Just look and see where the volume is, and that would be the one that you'd be looking for there. 5-year is balanced. Finally got a move in Bitcoin. So we've been looking for a move in Bitcoin higher, and so that is now in play. So 61, let's call it 61K, is now going to be your key defense price if you're long Bitcoin now. And then as far as expectations for the week, 68K is an upside target. That's another one where they're outside of 4% to the upside. But again, we're towards that matters more when you're in the middle of the month as opposed to toward the end of the month. And then we've got a number of currencies that are pretty in extreme, meaning that they are above, that price is above the most traded price of the last week and 20 days. So those are ones that whenever I see a product that's an extreme, I'm never looking to go long. That's a really strong market. Now I'm waiting for that market to balance and go sideways and accept those higher prices before I look to express. If the market's balanced, I'm looking for that to make a move. And just like we're going to be watching Ethereum. Like, can they follow with Bitcoin this week? All right, so that gives us kind of an idea if we're going to be looking for continued strength in Bitcoin. Gold, we're looking at the December contract. So you can see that the August expires here in 3 days. So you're going to be looking at, if you're doing anything, you're doing it in the December contract. So that'll update here on the quick sheet shortly. Overall, just looking at the last session, you can see we still had quite a few products that were in lower RVOL. I mean, these energy products, it's low RVOL because all the volume's already rolled to the new contract. Russell was still 70%, but NASDAQ was really good on Friday. And as a general rule, I like to stay clear of anything that is red here. That's just there's low participation. Price is going to be jumpy. Okay, so that gives us an idea of what we're looking for. So let's look at some specific charts. We're going to start with the S&P. Okay, here's the monthly profile. As we come into the month, here we are. We've got a price equal to the 5-day, and we're above the 20-day. We have migrated value for the month up to the highs, and we've got an imbalanced profile. So still looking for higher prices in the ES so long as we can hold above the 20-day. So you can see from a weekly expected high, 57.49 is the weekly expected high, 55.54 weekly expected low. So this is the range and expectation for the market. If we look at that on a weekly basis, one time framing higher for the week, a pretty clear target here around 5,700. We've got a prior naked point of control, and that's essentially the key upside target for the week. Aside from just getting new highs altogether, but watch for the market to move up to this prior point of control and see if it can accept and then push above that. Otherwise, it could reflect back toward volume lower. The key pivot or the price that we want to hold is going to be 56.25. Below 56.25, the door is open to go back toward the 20-day. Okay. And given reaction to NVIDIA, we could have we could have some significant moves at the end of the month, depending on how that plays out. But all things being equal, so far, we're still doing okay. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Okay, so Thursday, we had an outside day that almost engulfed the entire week, stayed above the prior week's point of control, and then on the Fed announcement on Friday, we printed an inside day. So be mindful of new RTH ranges. So the new RTH range here, if we take that out, we'll be looking towards that 5,700. We're watching 56.25 as last week's point of control. So that's the key idea. So if we open in the gap, we're looking for the gap to run towards 5,700. If we open in range, watch for a tag of 56.25. I'm sorry, 56.50. If we accept below 56.50, we go to 56.25. And then if we're below 56.25, then watch for follow-on behavior here that would nab this naked point of control and explore the space down here. All right, so that's what we're looking for Monday in the ES. But overall, as long as we're staying above 56.25, we're looking towards 5,700, 57.50. Below that, we could certainly explore lower. All right, let's look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ is on the heels of fairly strong week again. We did migrate monthly point of control higher. You can see how we're getting more and more balanced as we get to the end of the week or end of the month. Here's that monthly VWAP that we're so way above. What are we looking at? We've got incomplete auctions to the upside, looking for opportunities higher. 20,295 is the upside target for the week. I think there could potentially, depending on if NVIDIA goes favorably, we could still reach the July point of control up here around 20,600. Okay, so that's definitely the next key reference if we are able to get above this area of balance. Right, and as long as we hold this area of balance, that is the destination. Acceptance below that, and we start to explore some of this inventory lower. Okay. For the week, one time frame higher for the week. The auction respected the point of control of the prior week. This is why we look at that as a reference. That's your key pivot when you come in the week. So this week, the key pivot price is right here. We're looking at 847 prior point of control. That's your key pivot to decide, can we get it? Now, we struggled to get above the 90-day point of control. So 90-day inventory is holding the auction down. That's actually Thursday. We touched that, and then that was the outside day in the NASDAQ. And then Jackson Hole, we were sideways. Okay, so we're going to be watching to see what the reaction will be from Jackson Hole here on Monday. Do we approach back to the 90-day? If we can get above the 90-day, you can see there's not really anything in the direction to stop us as we approach that naked point of control from July. It's also a weekly point of control up there. That would be pushing and stretching the weekly expected high. But we'll get to that when it comes. All right. If we are unable to hold 850, and if we retest down here at 570, then the door is open to go back to the 20-day down here. But right now, buyers still have the upper hand, but some caution, right? Outside day has not had any follow through. So you have an outside day like this, it leads to follow through. It may take a couple days. It may be on Monday. We'll have to see. Watch the point of control. So 734 key reference on Monday, along with 850. So 850 to 734 is the chop zone. Above that, we'd look to clean up these singles and challenge the highs and push above the 90-day toward our daily expected high and so forth. So if we are opening up here, watch for these singles to get cleaned, stay north of the prior week point of control, and push this way. If we're in here, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Acceptance below Friday's point of control says that we'll push and get new weekly lows. Okay, and then we can actually push even into this space. So our daily expected low is down here around 570. There's some option gamma prices that could get in the way. So we could definitely ping pong around this area to start the week. All right. Russell got a really pretty good move. Russell's been struggling quite a bit. All right. Let's look at it on a monthly basis. Moving back toward the most traded price of July. That seems to be the magnet. Moving away from the 5-day, 20-day is down here, 90-day is down here. So, however, notice that there's a node here that's about the same as here. So if we move back up here, very likely we'll move the 20-day in short order, and then accept around. In fact, depending on the data provider, it probably already says that your 20-day is up there at 2270. So that's definitely the magnet higher that we're looking for the auction to move toward. Balance and break from balance. So what key price should Russell buyers or sellers not be able to get through? They should not be able to get back through last week VPOC at 2151. They should stay north of that as we look towards 2270 and attempt to even get above the July highs. That is possible this week. Big trend day higher on Friday. And acceptance, right? So value was accepted higher. We'd expect the auction to stay north of 50%. It's a day after trend. If we open with a gap rules are in play. You can see there's prior singles prints in play up towards that 2270. That would be the key upside target. Watch for early responsive activity that tags 2225 before pushing. And if we set below halfway back, we could explore these singles. But definitely looking for the Russell to continue higher. Again, if we see 2150 anytime soon, then I would not want to be long. Crude, okay. Strong finish to the week. You see the auction left balance with the 5-day and 20-day and has moved back toward the 90-day. Still, one time frame lower for the month. That's unlikely to change. Given that 5-day and 20-day are down here, watch for crude to balance here early to try to pull these references higher, lest we then rotate and go back to value. It's the classic, is value going to follow price or is price going to follow value? All right, so here's the pushback to the 90-day. Another note here where we could pull the 20-day back up. So, very likely we do some balance there, at least to pull up the 5-day. Last week, one time frame lower, but still in a multi-week range. very much would expect that we push towards 79 and then see if that rotates us back lower, or if we can break out. I would expect some defense around 79 to rotate us back here. Point of control for the week was here. So if we reflect off of the 90-day, watch for early liquidations to find buyers and then step back up in that direction. Looking at Friday, Friday was a pretty solid trend day. So a gap and trend, meaning that we would look for higher prices on Monday. You can see actually we've already gapped significantly. So this will be a tier 3 gap on the open. So gap rules are in play. Given how large that is, watch for some balance. Early liquidations to tag the ETH VWAP would be probably your only spot to get some favorable entry before rotating back up to the 90-day. Watch 50% retrace and that ETH VWAP, what that would look like on a shorter time frame. All right. Let's just zoom out here. Okay, prices that we should not see acceptance below. So here is the ETH VWAP. Here's halfway back. So if price was to accept below these, look for us to go back toward Friday's range. If we could get a move, the first tag here is likely to push. See how impulsive this is overnight. I'd expect that at least some of this gets cleaned. So while I still think we'll see higher prices on the day, and most likely we'll hold the gap, look for pullbacks. Look for early liquidations, responsive activity to then be long. And however, be prepared to flip the script should we have sellers come in and accept below what is currently around 76. Okay. So with that, just one more last check here of the quick sheet, and that'll kind of give us what we're looking for. We are, again, ending August, so that means that we're rounding the corner to September. We've got a holiday weekend coming up, so the following week will be a shortened week, but then we start into fall trading, which is my favorite time of the year. I'm expecting relative volume to increase and actually for it to be a very volatile period. And I say that just here looking at the VIX curve is kind of like the last place that we'll pay attention. After the little bit of the unseasonal spike that occurred earlier in the month, we've rallied as we've unraveled a lot of hedges that were in longer durations and stuff that was at the tails. We have now crept back to the same measure of complacency that we had prior to that. And that was enough fuel to get us, as expected, back to new all-time highs. We have also pulled from this low. If we plop the profile, you can see that the most traded price here, right around 558. Watch that price. That price goes, then the next node is around 545, and then lower. I am still, until proven otherwise, I am expecting that we're going to see a pretty significant move lower this fall. So let's just measure out and look at what those prices could be. Just going back to the most significant node would only be 8%. That'd take us back to 520. If we were to do a typical pullback of a 10 or 15%, that's going to be, let's just look at where some potential nodes are from the all-time high here. So 15% would get us back to 477. Like this node here would get us to 8%. I think those are all very doable as we go into the fall. We're past Jackson Hole, and it may be when we get the first rate cut or triple witching in September. Like there's a number of those types of events that could happen at any time. We're in that window where it is seasonally typically the most bearish season of the year from now through mid-October. So just be mindful of that. There's a number of mechanical reasons for that. And so that combined with the complacency that we're seeing here in the market and the fact that prices have gone higher. And to be clear, this is not investors weighing in with positions. This is an unraveling of hedges and inventory being bought back, and they're different things. The potential for the recession everyone's been talking about forever, that's the unwind. Again, with the rate cuts, we've been moving higher on the anticipation of rate cuts, so the reality of the rate cuts is likely a sell the news event. So mark that FOMC meeting in September. It will be interesting for sure. Okay, all right, gang. Well, with that, hope you have a great week and a great Monday. We'll be back with the daily outlook for Tuesday tomorrow, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.